Mira Business FM, your daily guide to the markets, money, and more.
This is the Morning Drive. It's Mira Business FM. My name's Tim Elliott. Good morning to you, and good morning to Jeff Rhodes, Managing Director of Business Development, Middle East and Asia Monetary Metals, just back from the trip of a lifetime. Jeff.
Yes. Good morning, Tim. You've really got that off pat now.
I wrote it down.
The monetary metals thing. It's very good.
I made a note. It's ingrained in my head. Like your reports. Do you know what? It's dead funny that you send me these. You send out reports every day.
Yeah.
To, obviously to a database, and I get the reports. And what I do is I told you I keep notes over the course of the week. So I think I want to ask about that, or can Jeff explain that? Whatever. This morning, one came in, and I thought I'm just going to go and make some notes. And I've got this kind of. I don't know, it's a bit like I'm afraid of the teacher, so that if I don't make the notes, I don't ask the right questions. But that's what happens. So thanks for sending them. The other thing, I wanted to start actually, you're just back from big trip. We spoke to you on Zoom on Monday, but missed you for a week.
Yeah.
17-hour journey to get to San Francisco. Yeah.
Followed by another, then followed by another flight to Phoenix.
Right.
It was the most amazing flight of my life, actually.
Were you doing a lot of singing on the way? Because there are plenty of songs about, was it Flowers in Your Hair in San Francisco or something?
No,
then that's by the time you get to...
No.
You could have crooned all the way.
I was fixated on the flight map, actually. And I never look at that. I normally sort of watch sports on, Emirates or movies, but I was on watching the flight path, and it was incredible. Really, it kind of the way it went, and we went up throughout Russia. We went right through Russia,
right,
and there were names of towns and cities that I've never heard of, and I've never ever dreamt of being anywhere near the Arctic Circle, and there we were. We went straight up to the Arctic Circle, hung a left along the Arctic Ocean, and then eventually hung another left down through the west coast of the North America and into San Francisco. But hats off to Emirates. It was a great flight and really, really well looked after. So, and it's amazing that, so it's plaudits to Emirates for what they're doing at the moment. I think it's really great. You'd never know there was an issue, so which is super.
It's right on the outer limits as well of how far a plane can go. 17 hours.
Yeah, 17 hours. It was 17 hours on the dot, actually. So,
really?
Yeah, but I really did enjoy it, and luckily for me, I had enough points so that I could upgrade to business.
Oh, that's nice.
Thinking I would sleep, I didn't sleep one bit.
Well, you're transfixed to a screen looking at your route, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. This is amazing. Yeah, I really did enjoy it.
And not even a movie on the way?
No
I've
movies.
just got this image of Jeff Rhodes like, oh, look, there's Yerevan, there's wherever you're going.
Yeah,
there's
was...
Moskovskaya. I don't know, I can't think of any other names.
No, honestly, there was lots of... They were long names. But anyway.
But I mean, these are the things about travelling. You learn, don't you, in travelling? That's why we should all do it.
We should all do it. And then coming back, I went to Phoenix, and it was Scottsdale, Arizona, where the headquarters of Monetary Metals, and there were 60 of us there. It was great, and all together for a week. Started at 7:30 in the morning, ended at 9 o'clock at night. And it was really a great experience. And on the way back, I went to Vancouver. I saw my son Oliver and his wife Emily.
Okay.
And spent 4 days, 3 nights in Vancouver, and that was fantastic. I must say, if you haven't been, you should go.
I've never been to Canada, and I've got to admit, I do fancy it.
Yeah,
I've got a bit of a thing about Mounties.
Yeah, well, in Vancouver, it's surrounded by mountains.
Well, no, Mounties.
Yeah,
the guys in the...
Oh, steady, Tim.
No, I didn't. No, that came out creepily, didn't it? I used to watch this show called Due South years ago. I think it was a 90s show, and it was a little bit kind of left of centre, but it was basically this bit about a Mountie. Anyway, we're completely off topic.
Yeah, we are.
Do you know one thing I did want to ask you?
Yeah,
You're away from here, and obviously we're consumed by the news cycle because it directly impacts us in this region because it is the story and still is the story at the moment. What was your impression of the news cycle, the way it's reported abroad? Because we get lots of we end up being accused of spending too much time countering, being too positive. But we're trying to counter misinformation because that's how I see it.
No, definitely. I'd obviously flown from Dubai into North America. And with the kind of reports that you say, and it's not just about America, it is other reports from elsewhere. I was thinking, this isn't somewhere that I recognise. I don't recognise Dubai the way it was being reported. And I really did my best within the conference that I attended to say, look, it's not like that. For me, I just didn't recognise the way it was reported. Didn't actually ring any kind of bells with me because it just was not accurate. And so I think we were talking off air when President Trump first came into office, and he had a big thing about fake news. Yeah, and having been 2 weeks away in an area couldn't be further from where we are now, on the west coast of America, 11 hours time difference. Yeah, I just didn't recognise the news as it was being reported.
Which is interesting, that, I think. And I don't necessarily agree with everything President Trump says.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. But I can see his point of view towards some of the news organisations and the news cycle and the reporting. I can understand because I do watch things and think, I don't think that's really the case at all.
No.
Look,
let's get back on.
Let's get back onto gold because the story of the week is obviously the ceasefire. Gold surged after the ceasefire was agreed. Crude oil prices went the other way. I wanted to just pick something up that you reported from your report on Wednesday morning, and this is just as the ceasefire was announced. So, gold's advance has confirmed a technical buy signal on the charts with a MACD crossover.
Yes.
That should target the 50-day MA pegged at 49.30 as a minimum and remains on course to regain a foothold back above $5,000. It's a great phrase, but I need you to decipher it for the rest of us.
So it's not about hamburgers and French fries.
It could be, but it's not.
It's not. It's a moving average and convergence and divergence. Yeah. So there are two moving averages that you look at. It's a 12. It can vary, but I look at the 12 and 26-day moving average.
Right.
Okay. And they tend to they go along on the charts, and they tend to cross over. And my observation that I learned a long time ago was that when the 12-day moving average crossed up through the 26-day moving average, it was a buy signal.
Okay.
And when that 12-day moving average crossed down through the 26-day moving average, it's a sell signal. Now, it doesn't work every time, but every significant major move that I've witnessed in recent years has followed one of those crossovers. So a MACD crossover to the upside, bullish. MACD crossover to the downside, bearish. And just if you follow that, it's a tremendous. It gives a change of trajectory. That is actually now we're in a bullish market or we're in a bearish market, and that the announcement of the ceasefire confirmed a MACD buy signal.
Right.
Now it is faded a bit. It hasn't run as quickly as I would have thought. And that's because having announced the ceasefire, then there's a significant amount of, violence taking place in other parts of the Middle East. Yeah. I don't really want to get into the detail of that. But basically, it left a question mark against the ceasefire. Now, it looks as though the ceasefire is indeed holding between the US and Iran.
It does.
So
yeah.
if that is confirmed and leads to a resolution, a peaceful resolution of the conflict, that will be extremely bullish for gold, which sounds a bit contrarian, that if there is an easing of geopolitics, gold goes up and not down. That sounds strange, but it's all about interest rates, Tim, and it's all about inflation.
Yeah.
And so we were well on the way to having cuts in interest rates this year. And this is the reason why in January we had gold rallying to an all-time high of 5,600 because of the anticipation of lower interest rates. You know, the conflict happens, oil prices go through the roof, and suddenly the talk is now of inflation and maybe a move in interest rates to the upside to control inflation. So really that's what it's all about. I believe that this ceasefire, I hope, will hold. Interest rates will be back perhaps in cuts towards Q4, maybe not in Q2, but that is good. You know, lower interest rates in the US and generally good for gold.
But it's the oil price in the meantime that's...
In the oil price, which is the key impact on inflation. And look, we saw yesterday, and this morning I think I saw crude at 95. As on Tuesday, it was 115. So, that's a big move lower, and it just shows you that when the ceasefire becomes actually peace, then I think we see oil prices much lower, and strangely, gold prices much higher. It's difficult to actually really understand that, but I've always said to him, to be a good gold trader, you need to be a bit weird. So, I think I fit the bill.
I think that sums you up, doesn't it? Just ever so slightly.
Ever so slightly.
No, that's a good thing. The other thing as well is apart from an actual signal, it's the indicators of inflation, isn't it? So we've got the latest consumer price report. We've got more data coming out. Well, it's due today, isn't it?
Today, yes.
Yeah, okay.
The CPI today.
Yeah, so what does that mean, do you think, for gold prices?
Yeah, look, it could have a significant impact. It depends what it comes in at. If the CPI, consumer inflation, comes in as expected, around about 0.2 to 0.4% on the month, that's probably just that's in the number. But if it were like 1%, for example, and with energy costs going through the roof, it could be a big number. I think that could cause a little bit of a sell-off in gold, but there are willing buyers, Tim.
Yeah.
There are willing buyers into dips, and that's why I think maybe a move down to 4,600, there'll be a queue of people waiting to buy down there. And eventually, with the technicals being bullish, I think it's only a matter of time before we move up through the $5,000 level, and that is a pivotal level. So,
you see that I'm making notes at the moment. I always make notes of your predictions, and so far, I've not been able to catch you out. But there will be a time.
It will be.
No,
It'll be spectacular as well, but hopefully not yet.
Well, let's see. It's been some run, hasn't it? What about silver?
Silver, silver is really taking a back seat after the extraordinary volatility that we had at the end of last year and in the first 2 months of this year. Silver has calmed down, and a lot of the reason for that is silver has come onto the market. There was a concern that China was like hoarding silver for its reserves. That was one of the big factors behind the shortage of physical silver, but that seems to have gone away for now. So it's a trading range of about $70 to $90, and we have been sort of trading with it. Silver is actually, the low we saw was 61. So I did get out of that range, but basically sideways trading between 70 and 90, and it will break out of that at some point. there has been a buy signal in silver and platinum. Not so much, and palladium, all four of them. There have been technical buy signals. So, but you need, to make the buy signals work, you need market involvement. Now, the one thing I would say, overriding all of what I'm saying, is that the volumes are seasonally low. You would normally expect to see very high volume in gold, silver, platinum, palladium at this time of year, and you're not seeing it. I think many people have stepped aside because of the uncertainty of what's going on in the Middle East, the uncertainty of what's going on in the US, and so on. With Trump, you never know what President Trump's going to say.
It's very hard to predict, isn't it? Yeah.
So it's very hard to predict, and I think a lot of people have just they're standing to one side. And so, unless you have market involvement, it's difficult for charts to do what they should.
Yeah.
Because the players are simply not there. But at some point, very, very soon, I think we'll get everyone back into the market, and we'll see gold, silver, platinum, palladium back off to the races, Tim.
You would think so. I mean, what do you make of the time that we're in? I know it's kind of a standard question, but since you've been coming in here, for example, we've seen gold. I mean, it's been pretty stratospheric, 5,600. We've seen the conflict that hopefully we're starting to see the back end of. Hopefully, what do you make of the times in your business?
In my business,
your world?
In my world, I've seen in this first 4 months gold at 5,600 and 4,100. Yeah, the reversal back to 4,100, which was in a blink of an eye, and which we came to realise one of the drivers of that was liquidation by the Central Bank of Turkey, as reported, so it's in public, it's not secret, that they sold 120 tonnes in 2 weeks. Yeah. That is a lot of gold.
That's a huge...
It's a huge amount of gold. And why? Because they were impacted by the rampant oil price. Because Turkey is a big user of crude, and so they needed to do that to provide the money to actually pay the higher crude oil prices. But that's gone away as well. That's been absorbed. And it tells you, and gold is currently, as we speak, about 47.50, and it shows you just how resilient the gold price has been in those kind of with that kind of volume coming onto the market. But interestingly, reports over the last week just tell us that China's buying. So, maybe that Turkey is buying, but Turkey was selling, but China is reported to be a buyer again. So, I think we've seen the low. I think we've seen the low for the year. Honestly, 4,100. Okay. Yeah, I do, and we're a long way from the top. Well, 5,600 is not the top for this year.
Yeah, well, you've said that and you stuck by
6,500.
Yeah, I know.
That is I believe, honestly, that we're going to see much, much higher prices, because I do believe we're going to see cuts in interest rates, because President Trump, he's got it right. If they lower interest rates, the debt burden on the US becomes less. Yeah. Because, they have to pay if rates are 4 or 5%, that's a lot of money for the US to pay just to service its debt. But if we're down at 2 or 3%, then that makes life a lot easier.
The difference when your debt is 39 trillion, something like that?
Yes.
That percentage point is significant.
It is. No, it is. So I do believe that we will be back in an environment of lower interest rates, not higher interest rates. And that will be the driver for gold to make that move to another big figure at the start. Not 4 or 5, but 6.
I've also learned something else from you this week.
What's that?
It was this is your terminology of the day. If you're listening and you don't get Jeff's reports, get in touch with us, and I'll see if he'd send them to you. But you know, I was a fan of contango in your terminology of like gold, precious metal terms.
Yeah.
The market situation where the price for forward delivery is greater than the spot price. That's a contango,
That's
right?
a contango.
Also should be some kind of Latin American dance, but you know, hopefully in the future.
And that is the norm.
That's exactly.
That's the norm.
But there's another word, and I didn't know what this was, so I've just learned something here. Quotation.
Quotation, yes.
Yeah. So that is the process in which silver is separated from gold, and it's dissolved in. Is it nitric acid?
Yeah.
Okay. Nitric acid parting, apparently. That's quotation.
Yeah, that's quotation.
I didn't know that. I should know these things, and I feel as though the world's open.
Same with it, Tim. We're at Q, so we've got a few more to get to.
I'm really
I don't know
looking
what
forward
life's
to
going to be
P.
like when we've got to Z. But
I tell you
to
what.
Z.
Sometimes life's for the living, Jeff. That's all I know. Look, it's always good to talk to you. Nice to see you back. Hopefully a bit more rested. It's a 17-hour journey. How did you find coming back this way, by the way?
It was even worse.
It was...
coming back, it was a 16-hour journey.
Okay.
But having spent 2 weeks not really sleeping on there, since I've been back, it's the opposite. I can't sleep here because I'm sort of waking up at 1 o'clock to do my market report.
We had to drag you out of bed this morning. I mean, what can you do? I don't know what to say. Jeff Rhodes is the MD for Business Development, Middle East and Asia for Monetary Metals. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Appreciate it. This is Mira Business FM.